Um, all right, Drew Boughton, congratulations on receiving your very first Emmy nomination for The
Thank
Man
you
in the
very
High
much.
Castle. You're welcome. You were the production designer on that show. Uh, so first of all, let me ask you how it felt to hear that you'd been nominated for the show. What was going through your mind?
I mean, it was absolutely, to be honest, kind of surprising and kind of stunning. And I'm so thrilled, and I'm really thrilled on behalf of the show, and not just for me, but for just a lot of people who worked really, really hard to make the show beautiful. And so I'm very, I was incredibly excited for myself and of course for all of them.
Congratulations. It's certainly an impressive show to look at. So take us back from the very beginning. How'd you get involved with it?
Well, I had done a show with David Zucker and Jordan and RSA and in Utah, and I'd worked with David Semmel, the director of the pilot, previously, and they were talking about this show, and my name came up between them, and it was sort of it was a wonderful thing because I just worked with both of them separately, and they both were happy. They were like, Drew, okay, well, great. And so I just I kind of I guess you could say I lucked into it, and
Mhm.
that really happily.
So tell us about the show. I mean, it's based on the work of Philip K. Dick, and it's this alternative view of history. So tell us a bit about the show and what your initial ideas were for designing it.
Well, I think that the show is particularly fascinating because it's an alternative history, but it's an alternative history that takes place in such a rich historical environment because you know Philip K. Dick's essential genius is to say that the Nazis won World War II, and even in just one sentence, what comes up visually in everybody's mind is so huge and powerful, symbolically, emotionally. So it really is. It's a gigantic opportunity for certainly for any world build, for any kind of designer, for any kind of show creators. It's just a wonderful opportunity, and so knowing that it's an alternative period is an incredibly challenging assignment, but also just a wonderful one because you know most production designers and people who have an opportunity to work on a period film or a period television show have a kind of a reasonably clear roadmap to how to create that. Insofar as you look up the period reference images, the photographs, the historical information, and you can kind of get an idea which objects or cars or buildings should be in that period, and you can be very, very accurate and clear about it. In our world, we had the opportunity to go back to the same time period, but then to change it. So our 1962 is not the same as the 1962 of America or of the world, and it's different in profound ways, profoundly disturbing ways, and so that really kind of gave us a tremendous assignment and a tremendous opportunity.
Mhm. So then, did you do any kind of research into it then? I mean, look at newsreel footage, or just like, look to the original source material, or where'd you get your ideas from?
Well, we had a lot of conversations, David Semmel and Audrey Fisher, the costume designer, and I, and we looked at a lot of different things, and we looked at period films. We looked at a lot, in particular, period photographs from the 40s, from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and early 60s, and looked at all the things that were unique and special in all of those photographs, and then figured out which things that we would subtract, which became really the most exciting challenge, was to figure out what things would have been taken away. But in particular, as we looked at those photographs, we really examined the color and the kind of the quality of the photography that is involved in those in each of those shots, because there's a kind of a style and a look to the different kinds of film stock from those periods.
Mhm. So then after you do all that, talk about expressionistically, shall we say, what the mood you're going for, and tone and color and shape that you use.
Well, we looked at period photographs of East Germany and the Soviet Union and other totalitarian or fascist kind of state environments, because in our world, essentially, because the fascist Nazis won they won, and the Imperial Japanese, also won. We're essentially the world is divided between two totalitarian regimes. And what's very interesting about looking at images and photographs from places that are essentially under occupation is that the people who live in those places, as in East Germany and some of the Soviet bloc, countries, is you see there's a real absence of color and a real absence of wanting to stand out, and you see a lot of people who are really just trying to be they're trying to be good members of the social system and not run afoul of the authorities. So you tend to have cars that are more muted in their colors. You have clothing that's more muted in their colors. And that is a very different and distinct thing when you compare it to the post-war American world, where Times Square and, Hollywood and all sorts of things that happened in the 1950s America were brightly colored and exuberant. And, just it's an entirely different visual world if you imagine that the 1950s America really didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of creating this for television and on a television budget, you've worked in both feature films and in television.
Yes.
And I mean, this has a lot of scale and scope to it. So talk about working, were there constraints put upon you that you needed to work within, and how did those benefit you?
Well, we shot the pilot in Seattle, and it had been a while since Seattle had seen a show of our size come in. So we had certain constraints in that respect. And also we had in the pilot, we were a show that was undefined, and that created a lot of anxiety as we were going around saying to people, we'd like to use your building as a Nazi, embassy, and the swastikas, on the outside, and so it was very difficult initially for the show to get permission to basically do the work of putting up that offensive iconography. Mm-hmm. As you can imagine, most people really, they really don't want to see that. They don't want to be a part of that. And especially if they don't understand what the objective is of the show. So over time, that became clear, and people have been now, much more open to realizing that we are an anti-fascist show quite clearly, and that we're drawing parallels that people can examine about recent events and even contemporary events in our politics. So that was one really truly great challenge, and it's not so much a financial one as it is an emotional or political one.
Mm-hmm. So take us on to the set. I mean, we talk a lot about design work in the pre-production phase, but what is your job like when you're actually in production and making decisions on the set?
Well, we get a very ambitious script, and we have a 10-day shooting schedule, and that means we have 10 days of prep, and that essentially means 2 weeks of time in shooting and also in preparation. And so during that time, we all get in the scout van together with whoever is directing that episode, and we drive around and we look for the locations that are going to fit the script, and we propose locations that we think might be even better and maybe even improve the moments that the writers have given us. And a lot of the time, I'll take photos, on my iPad, and then I'll sketch on top of them, and so that by the time we get out of the van at the next stop, I've sort of attempted to, give some impression of what some of the locations can be like. So it's a lot of drawing in the van.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of, creating these sets in order to make it look as if people actually live there, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I've been very blessed, and the show's been very blessed with some very talented set decorating teams. First Brenda Meyer's ballad on the pilot, and now John Lancaster and his crew on the series. And in both cases, a tremendous amount of what you see is actually real. There's a temptation with a show like this to think that everything is CG, and the reality is it's actually not.
Mhm.
Maybe 10% of the sort of things that you see that are sort of big, that are more obviously CG, are of course CG, but most of our environments are real. And that means that the set decorating department, which comprises just a lot of people, goes from place to place and dresses these locations with all of the furniture and all the things that need to go in. It also means that our paint and construction departments go in and paint and wallpaper and physically build a lot of sets as well. So um, the it's quite a big operation actually, and it is similar to the number of people that would be on a good size feature film.
So the lines are blurring more and more, you think? I mean, like I said, you've worked in both. Is there much of a difference now between what you do on a TV show and what you do on a feature film?
It's not as much as it used to be. The ambition of right now in our sort of this second golden age of television is very very high, and the standards are very high. So we're executing a number of sets at a faster speed than would be done on most feature film environments, and we're doing it at as high a level as some of the larger films that I had worked on. So I think that it's a fascinating time because the acceleration of everything means that the acceleration of filmmaking happens too. So we're actually, where it might take 96 shooting days to make a movie, actual days of filming, in 96 shooting days, you can make eight episodes of television. So that's 8 hours of television versus two.
Hmm.
So it's sort of it's 5 times faster is another way of looking at it. And we're trying to maintain the same standards, but do it 5 times faster.
Hmm. Absolutely. What got you into this field and what still excites you about being a production designer?
Well, I grew up in a theater family. My father was a designer and a director, and my mother was a costume designer and actress. And so I grew up in a theater family in a little town in Vermont. And so I've basically been doing this pretty much my whole life. I was building and painting sets when I was a little kid. So I've this is pretty much what I've always been doing. And what I really love is it's not so much the activity of the filming itself as it is the activity of the preparing for the filming. And there are just a tremendous number of enormously talented people that the audience doesn't see, who are actively creating wonderful things. And when my most fun really comes when the set is being prepared before any camera shows up, and there are teams of people painting and teams of people dressing and lighting and rigging, and it's an enormous beehive of activity that is pure creativity. It's really kind of inspiring. And then of course we step away and another huge team of people come in to do their enormous creative work, and that is also similarly inspiring. And it's sort of for me it's kind of a handoff moment, because it's my job to step back at that time, and then I happily can watch some other huge crew of people do amazing work. But the part that I enjoy the most is if I'm scattering leaves, or painting something, or pushing around some furniture at the last minute. I really enjoy that.
It is amazing to think that these entire worlds can be created by just some paint and plywood. I mean, if you were to walk onto any one of these sets while they were being constructed, you'd say, well, how in the world could this look like Nazi-occupied 1962 America? But you pull it off. So from that, I ask you, if you were to point out to, say, an Emmy voter or to a fellow designer, some aspect of your work on this show and say, that's the best representation of what I can do, or that's something that I'm the proudest of, what would that be from this show?
Well, you know, it's really hard to say. I like to think that it's the things that we subtracted that speak best to the quality of the design of the show. The things that we took away, and whether that's, you know, colors or types of vehicles, or, you know, or objects. And so the things really, it's sort of what isn't there that I would suggest, that, you know, that I would point out, that I think, you know, it's sort of like, it's what you say no to says more about your design than what you say yes to, in a way. And you know, there's in the hurry up and sort of get things done, there's sometimes a tendency to fill up a set and fill up an environment with all the things, and it's the things you don't put in that really can make a huge difference. I think I would say that.
It's a very interesting take. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on your nomination. It was a real pleasure talking to you. You're welcome.
And you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.